I don't need a 7-year degree in sociology to know bullshit when I hear it.
Ben Shapiro, a well-known conservative political commentator, is recognized for his unyielding stance against woke culture. His views are both polarizing and provocative, often challenging mainstream narratives surrounding identity politics, free speech, and cancel culture. Shapiro's criticism of the woke ideology stems from his belief that it prioritizes group identity over individual responsibility, erodes free speech, and imposes rigid moral standards that lack nuance. By taking a stance against what he sees as the excesses of woke culture, Shapiro aims to promote a culture that values truth, debate, and personal accountability, offering a stark alternative to the ideas promoted by the woke movement. One of Shapiro's most outspoken criticisms of woke culture is its focus on identity politics, a practice he believes divides people into rigid categories based on race, gender, and sexuality, often at the expense of individual identity and merit. Shapiro argues that by emphasizing group identity, woke culture encourages people to see themselves as victims based on factors they can't control, rather than empowering them to overcome challenges and succeed as individuals. He often points out that the emphasis on identity politics can stifle personal growth by discouraging people from taking responsibility for their actions and choices. In his view, self-empowerment is key, and constantly focusing on grievances can be counterproductive to personal development. Another prominent aspect of Shapiro's critique is his staunch defense of free speech, which he believes is under attack from cancel culture, a phenomenon closely linked to woke ideology. Shapiro contends that cancel culture limits the free exchange of ideas by silencing individuals who express views outside the accepted norms of woke culture. He argues that this environment of censorship stifles open debate and discourages people from expressing diverse opinions. Shapiro believes that free speech is essential for a healthy democracy, and he sees woke culture's intolerance for differing views as a dangerous trend that undermines this core principle. For him, free speech should be protected at all costs, even if some ideas may be uncomfortable or offensive to others. Shapiro has repeatedly addressed the issue of cancel culture, which he describes as a form of social and professional ostracism used to punish people who deviate from accepted ideologies. He points out that the targets of cancel culture are often judged without due process or context, and once someone is canceled, they are rarely given the opportunity for redemption. Shapiro views cancel culture as an extension of woke culture's intolerance for dissenting opinions, and he argues that this practice creates a climate of fear in which people are afraid to speak their minds. He believes that this trend is ultimately harmful to society, as it prevents people from engaging in honest discussions about important issues, pushing controversial topics underground rather than addressing them openly. One of Shapiro's favorite arguments against woke culture is its tendency to reject objective truth in favor of subjective interpretations based on personal feelings and experiences. Shapiro argues that this perspective undermines logical reasoning and encourages people to base their beliefs on emotions rather than facts. He often references the phrase, "facts don't care about your feelings," to emphasize his belief that objective truth should guide public discourse and policy decisions. Shapiro believes that woke culture's emphasis on personal experience over evidence-based reasoning can lead to flawed conclusions, as it prioritizes individual narratives over factual accuracy. He advocates for a return to rational discourse that values facts over feelings, arguing that this approach is essential for making informed decisions. In addition to his criticism of cancel culture and identity politics, Shapiro has expressed concern about how woke culture handles issues of race and social justice. While he acknowledges that racial discrimination and inequality exist, he argues that woke culture often promotes divisive narratives that foster resentment rather than unity. Shapiro believes that focusing on historical grievances without acknowledging the progress that has been made creates a culture of victimhood, which he sees as disempowering for individuals and harmful to society as a whole. He advocates for a more optimistic view of race relations, emphasizing the importance of personal responsibility and agency in overcoming adversity. In his view, a culture that celebrates individual achievement over collective grievances is more likely to foster unity and mutual respect. Shapiro has also criticized the concept of safe spaces, which he believes shields individuals from opposing viewpoints and prevents them from developing resilience. He argues that by creating environments where people are protected from ideas that might make them uncomfortable, woke culture discourages intellectual growth and critical thinking. Shapiro believes that universities and public spaces should be places where ideas are freely exchanged and debated, even if some views may be controversial or offensive. He contends that exposure to a variety of perspectives is essential for personal growth in that safe spaces. undermine this process by creating echo chambers that reinforce existing beliefs. For Shapiro, resilience is built through engagement with diverse ideas, not by avoiding them. A central theme in Shapiro's critique of woke culture is its emphasis on victimhood, which he believes discourages people from taking control of their lives. He argues that woke culture's focus on systemic issues often promotes a sense of helplessness, as it encourages people to blame external factors for their problems rather than seeking ways to overcome them. Shapiro believes that while systemic issues exist, individuals have the power to shape their own destinies through hard work and personal accountability. He often cites his own background as an example, arguing that success is achievable regardless of one's circumstances if one is willing to take responsibility and make the necessary sacrifices. This perspective runs counter to woke culture's emphasis on societal structures, promoting a message of empowerment and self-determination instead. Shapiro is also known for his critique of the modern feminist movement, which he argues has been co-opted by woke ideology. He believes that contemporary feminism often promotes a narrative of male oppression and female victimhood, which he sees as counterproductive to gender equality. Shapiro argues that by framing women as perpetual victims of a patriarchal society, woke feminism discourages women from pursuing their own goals and taking control of their lives. He advocates for a more individualistic approach to gender issues, one that encourages women to focus on their own achievements rather than blaming external forces for their challenges. This perspective has resonated with many who feel that the feminist movement has strayed from its original goals, and it aligns with Shapiro's broader message of personal responsibility. One of Shapiro's most provocative criticisms of woke culture is its approach to gender identity, which he believes rejects biological reality in favor of subjective self-identification. Shapiro argues that while individuals should be free to live as they choose, societal norms and policies should be based on objective biological facts rather than personal feelings. He contends that the push to redefine gender based on personal identity rather than biology can have serious social implications, particularly in areas like sports, education, and healthcare. Shapiro's views on gender identity are controversial, but he believes that upholding a consistent standard of biological reality is essential for maintaining fairness and consistency in society. This perspective reflects his broader belief in the importance of objective truth, which he sees as a cornerstone of rational discourse. Shapiro's criticism of woke culture extends to the entertainment industry, which he believes has become a platform for promoting ideological messages at the expense of storytelling and artistic expression. He argues that Hollywood's embrace of woke ideology has led to a decline in the quality of films and television shows, as creators are more focused on promoting woke messages than on creating compelling narratives. Shapiro believes that audiences are increasingly turned off by what he sees as the preachiness of woke entertainment, which he argues prioritizes ideological conformity over artistic integrity. He calls for a return to storytelling that respects the intelligence of the audience and allows for a diversity of viewpoints, rather than pushing a single narrative. Shapiro's critique of woke culture also touches on the broader implications for American society. He believes that woke ideology promotes a vision of the United States as fundamentally flawed, often focusing on the country's historical injustices rather than its achievements and progress. Shapiro argues that while it's important to acknowledge the country's past mistakes, focusing solely on its shortcomings fosters a sense of disillusionment and division. He advocates for a more balanced view of American history, one that recognizes both the challenges and the progress that have shaped the nation. This perspective is rooted in his belief that a positive vision of America is essential for fostering unity and a shared sense of purpose. In discussing the future of woke culture, Shapiro warns that its current trajectory could lead to further polarization and social division. He believes that by encouraging people to see themselves primarily as members of specific identity groups, woke culture discourages individuals from finding common ground with those who may not share their background or experiences. Shapiro argues that this focus on group identity over individual character undermines the shared values that have historically united diverse communities. He calls for a return to a culture that prioritizes individual merit, personal responsibility, and mutual respect, which he believes are essential for a cohesive society. This vision challenges the divisiveness of woke ideology, offering an alternative path based on unity and shared values. Ultimately, Ben Shapiro's critique of woke culture is rooted in his belief in objective truth, free speech, and individual accountability. He argues that the current trend of emphasizing identity politics, cancel culture, and victimhood has created a climate of fear and division that is detrimental to society. Shapiro's views resonate with those who feel alienated by the rigidity and intolerance of woke ideology, offering a perspective that values personal responsibility and rational discourse over ideological conformity. By challenging the assumptions of woke culture, Shapiro encourages people to think critically and engage in honest, open discussions, promoting a vision of society that values individual achievement and intellectual diversity.